Hey, this is Tree from SoManyStadiums.com. This week we're going to talk about Navy. So before we talk about the experience in Annapolis, let's go over Navy's bona fides. They do actually have one national championship, 3 claimed conference titles. They've got 2 Heisman Trophy winners and 23 consensus All-Americans. Most of those have happened way in the distant past, but not a bad set of numbers, quite frankly, when you look at the whole college football realm. The Naval Academy is located in Annapolis, Maryland, which is really a suburb of Washington, D.C. It's a great little town, lots of shopping, restaurants. It's a great spot to visit, and that's one of the reasons why going to the Naval Academy for a game is actually a good option, especially if you're visiting the city. Now, you can't really count on public transportation getting from the city to Annapolis, so you're probably going to have to rent a car. And as always, the traffic around DC can be pretty dicey, so you just need to plan ahead if you're going to go to Annapolis.
So what's a nicer city, right? So West Point or Annapolis? Because Annapolis is a pretty nice place to visit.
Unfortunately, I would have to go with Annapolis because there's so much more around it than West Point, right? You got New York City basically 50 miles away, but that's pretty much it.
Traffic woes aside, it really is an easy side trip to go over to Annapolis and catch a game if you're doing a long weekend in our nation's capital. The midshipmen play at Memorial Stadium, which is a fine little stadium. It's not very big. It's pretty traditional, bench seating, those kinds of things. There is some lawn seats in one of the end zone, which is a nice touch. And the tickets are generally fairly inexpensive. Like the other military academies, a game at the Naval Academy is really all about the tradition. So that's the midshipmen marching in before the kickoff, the flybys of the F-14s, and the cheesy homemade videos they make that get put on the video scoreboard. It really is a lot of fun from that perspective. As you might guess, the fans are polite, they're loud, but it's a nice, calm, reserved family environment at the end of the day. You're not going to find a lot of loudmouth drunks when you go see a Navy game. It really is a lot of fun from that perspective. Having lived in DC for a few years, we've been to several Navy games and we've always had a good time. For us, we've never actually done the tailgating. Instead, we've driven into Annapolis and taken the shuttles over to the stadium. The reason we do that is we really like Chicken Roost Deli and we like to stop there after the game. So for us, it's just easier to do that than it is to do the whole tailgating scene. So I can't really comment on how good the tailgating is at Navy. It looks fine when you come over on the shuttle, but I can't give you 100% up or down on that part of the experience. One of the nice things about going to a Navy game is that the tickets are generally fairly reasonable. They often do family packs, so that's 4 tickets with a hot dog and a Coke, that kind of thing. So from that perspective, it's a fairly inexpensive option and an add-on for a trip to the city, if you're doing a weekend trip to the city. The only issue I have with going to a game in Navy, quite frankly, is just that the stadium feels like it should be on the water. You should be able to sit in the stands and watch the game and see the water. I mean, I can do that at Florida Atlantic, but I can't do it at Navy. That doesn't make any sense.
Can't really see water from the stadium. You don't really have a water view, right?
But they're Navy.
But they're Navy, yeah. Kind of an oxymoron. There's no water at the Naval Academy Stadium.
As you likely know, Navy's #1 rivalry is Army, and that game is always played at a neutral site, so you can't go to Navy to see them play Army. However, you can go see them play Air Force at Navy, which is what we did in October of 2009. And what we got was a great game. It was back and forth, not a lot of scoring, but still exciting. Navy went ahead, and then Air Force had a pick 6, which makes you scratch your head. Navy's expertise is running the triple option. They throw the ball, and then they give up 6 going the other way. Probably should have just stayed on the ground.
And how would you describe the academics requirements at the Naval Academy versus West Point?
I believe they're supposed to be equal, but I've worked with a few of those grads, and I definitely have to question if the standards are not lowered to ensure that they can graduate people.
Nonetheless, it looked like they were going to squeak out a win when Air Force scored a field goal late in the game to push it to overtime. And there, the Rams hung on, kicked a field goal, and won the game. And the Admiral, Yeah, I think that's right. It's the Admiral in the Navy, not the Commandant. That's the Army. The Admiral gave everybody a weekend pass. Again, it's that nice feel-good story you get at a military academy game where you feel really good about the kids winning. But those are my thoughts on Navy. Let's hear what a few Army guys have to say about the Naval Academy.
Who's tougher between a Marine or a soldier? An Army
A soldier, sure.
I got to go with the Army soldier, right? I mean, Marines are cool and all, but they get to ride to the battle on a ship, right? Whereas soldiers got to walk to the battle. Or
I'm married to a Marine, and I'm in charge of this house, so I can personally attest that the Army soldiers are way tougher than any Marine I've ever come up against. So I don't know what they're talking about there.
What are the standards like for a West Point cadet versus a midshipman at the Naval Academy?
So I would say the standards for West Point is you got to be a tough guy, right? You got to be able to. I mean, they look at your whole background, right? So they want team captains, they want leaders, right? Whereas you go to the Naval Academy, they're just looking for a person that can swim.
So would you say it's harder to get into West Point or the Naval Academy?
100% harder to get into West Point.
If you had to describe, the Army-Navy rivalry, what makes that rivalry special or better than other college football experiences?
Well, it's a pretty old rivalry. And I think what makes it truly exciting is you never really know what the outcome of the game is going to be. Each team can have a completely horrible season or a completely great season, or one could be dominating and another one could be looking horrible. And when you come on that field, it doesn't matter. I've seen scores of 21-0 at halftime and a complete reversal by the end of the game. I've seen games come down to the last 7 seconds with a 100-yard drive. I mean, it's just a phenomenal energy. And I think what really makes it truly special is at the end of the game, as much crap as we talk about each other and as much as the ribbing that we give each other, at the end of the game, we all truly respect the effort that was put out on the field. Although we want to walk away with the win, ultimately we have the most respect for each other at the end of the game.
I think what's special about it is the history and the camaraderie that go into the game and come out of it. And then also the intense rivalry that it is, right? Probably more intense than any other rivalry I've read about or seen, right? I mean, you truly, truly, really want to destroy the other person on the field, but then you shake hands and you hug and you laugh and you cry once the game is over. So you really, it's a classic, kind of brotherly rivalry, right? You really want to beat the heck out of your brother some days, but you love the heck out of them too, right? And so that's kind of why I say it's just a great rivalry. You probably can't compare it to any other rivalry because of what's at stake. For a lot of those guys, it's their last game. Who knows where they'll end up, what they'll be doing, but you can bet that they'll be in harm's way at some point, and they know it, right? So for that, I mean, that part makes it really special.
So that's the Army view on the Naval Academy. Here's my final summary. Navy's a great place to visit. The traditions are awesome. It's very much like going to any of the other military academies, like you've heard me say before. It's a lot of fun, flybys. The games are usually competitive. It's not very expensive. Annapolis is a great town for a visit, so you can go to DC for the weekend and squeeze in a game. I got to admit that the Army experience is just a little bit better than the one you get at the Naval Academy. So you're saying, well, what makes Army better than Navy? Well, it might seem like a minor thing, but I just can't get over the fact that when you're at the Naval Academy at Memorial Stadium, you can't see the water. You ought to be able to see the Chesapeake Bay at the end of the day. And that's why I put the Naval Academy a notch below the experience at West Point.
Go Army, beat Navy!
Nonetheless, it's a lot of fun and worth the trip. That's all we got this week. See you in the cheap seats.
Interesting. That's good. That's good feedback. So, who's tougher, a Marine or a GI?
Do we use that term anymore? GI? I mean, this ain't World War II, buddy. So